McKinsey & Company doesn't just advise the world's most powerful organizations, it controls them. Every year, the world's largest corporations, the most powerful governments, and the most influential institutions pay McKinsey billions of dollars to tell them what to do. And McKinsey tells them. No public filings, no accountability to shareholders, no obligation to disclose who their clients are or what they told them. But here's what they don't show you. The same firm that sat in the boardrooms of Enron, advising on the very strategies that triggered one of history's largest corporate collapses, was back in another boardroom the following week. Different client, same McKinsey. The same firm that advised Purdue Pharma on how to, and these are their words, turbocharge OxyContin sales during the worst drug epidemic in American history, paid $573 million in settlements, and kept operating. McKinsey doesn't just survive its scandals, it profits from them, because by the time the story breaks, McKinsey is already gone, and someone else is holding the wreckage. This is the blueprint, and this is how the world's most secretive consulting firm became the most powerful organization nobody elected. In 1926, a University of Chicago accounting professor named James O. McKinsey had a theory. The corporations didn't need more capital, more technology, or more workers. They needed better thinking, systematic, rigorous, dispassionate. He founded a management consulting firm to sell exactly that. 100 years later, McKinsey & Company generates roughly $16 billion in annual revenue, operates in 65 countries, employs over 45,000 people, a third of whom hold PhDs, MBAs from the world's top 5 institutions or both. But the revenue number misses the point. McKinsey's real power isn't what they earn, it's where their alumni go. Former McKinsey partners currently hold senior positions at Goldman Sachs, Boeing, Google, the World Bank, the IMF, and the governments of at least a dozen countries. The CEO of PepsiCo, the former director of the CIA, the current head of the Gates Foundation, all McKinsey alumni. This isn't a consulting firm. It's a pipeline, a deliberate, structured pipeline from McKinsey's offices into the highest seats of corporate and government power on Earth. And McKinsey designed every inch of it. To understand McKinsey's power, you have to understand the model. When a company hires McKinsey, they don't just get advice. They get a team of analysts, typically 25 to 35 years old, 2 years out of the world's top MBA programs, embedded inside their organization for months. These analysts see everything: internal financials, HR structures, supply chains, strategy documents, boardroom decisions. McKinsey calls this the engagement model. What it means in practice: McKinsey has intelligence on the inner workings of the world's most powerful organizations that no government, no regulator, and no journalist has ever seen. And when that engagement ends, when the report is delivered and the invoice is paid, the McKinsey team moves to the next client, taking their accumulated institutional intelligence with them. There is no law that stops McKinsey from advising a company's direct competitor the following quarter. There is no regulator that oversees what happens to the intelligence they gather. There is no public record of who they advise, what they recommend, or what outcomes follow. McKinsey operates in the spaces between accountability. They enter boardrooms that are too powerful to audit. They leave before the consequences arrive, and they are never in the room when the wreckage is examined. That's not incompetence. That's architecture. Here's where it gets dangerous. In 2004, Purdue Pharma, the manufacturer of OxyContin, hired McKinsey. Opioid prescriptions were already rising. The addiction crisis was already visible to anyone paying attention. Purdue hired McKinsey to grow the business anyway. Internal McKinsey documents obtained through litigation show consultants advising Purdue to, quote, turbocharge the sales force and target the highest prescribing doctors in the country. Not moderate prescribers, the highest volume prescribers, the ones already writing OxyContin at rates that should have triggered regulatory scrutiny. McKinsey also proposed, in writing, financial incentives for distributors based on the number of overdose deaths in their territories. The more people who overdosed on OxyContin in a given region, the more the distributor would receive as a rebate. Let that settle. In 2021, McKinsey settled with 47 US states for $573 million. No criminal charges, no individual accountability, no naming of the consultants who wrote those recommendations. McKinsey released a statement saying they fundamentally disagreed with the characterization of their work. Then they kept operating. Today, McKinsey remains one of the most sought-after consulting firms in the pharmaceutical industry. That is what untouchable looks like. That's not the story, because Purdue Pharma isn't an isolated case. It's a pattern. Enron. McKinsey was deeply embedded in Enron's strategy for years before its collapse, advising on the very asset-light financial engineering model that made Enron's fraud possible. When Enron imploded, McKinsey published a business school case study on what went wrong. They were the primary author. ICE, detention centers. In 2019, the New York Times reported that McKinsey had advised US Immigration and Customs Enforcement on cost-cutting measures inside immigration detention facilities. The recommendations included reductions in food, medical care, and basic supplies. Detainees died in those facilities. Saudi Arabia. After the murder of journalist Jamal Khashoggi in 2018 inside a Saudi consulate on orders later attributed to Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman by US intelligence, McKinsey continued its government advisory relationship with Saudi Arabia. A McKinsey report on social media dissent was later found to have been used by Saudi authorities to identify and target government critics. Each time, the pattern holds. McKinsey advises, the consequences arrive. McKinsey has already left. No criminal charges, no regulatory action, no loss of clients. Because the clients who hire McKinsey are often the same institutions that would need to hold McKinsey accountable, and nobody holds their own advisor to account. James O. McKinsey died in 1937. He never saw what his accounting firm became. What it became is this: a private institution with no public accountability, no regulatory oversight, and no obligation to disclose its clients, its recommendations, or the consequences of its advice. It sits inside the boardrooms of the companies that shape what you eat, what you pay, what medications you take, and what governments decide. It leaves before the damage is visible, and it has never, in 100 years of operation, faced a consequence proportional to its influence. McKinsey didn't just build a consulting firm, it built the infrastructure of plausible deniability for the most powerful organizations on Earth, and it charges them $16 billion a year for the privilege. If this is the kind of power structure mainstream financial media won't touch, this channel exists for exactly that reason. If you want to keep unmasking the invisible forces that run our world, make sure to subscribe. This is The Blueprint. Thanks for watching.